So my name is Lampoltshammer. I work as an assistant professor and deputy head of the Center for E-Governance at the University for Continuing Education Krems in Austria. And my role in the mGov4EU project is I'm the work package lead of work package 5. So legal, ethics and evaluation concerns, as well as work in the area of sustainability and governance in work package 2. So we have overall 3 pilots that we're going to develop. The one is mobile signature, so you can use your mobile, your eID in mobile contexts in an international environment to sign contracts. The second thing is in the area of smart mobility, so about state subsidized, for example, taxi rides or bus rides, where you have to prove your residency and your nationality, and based on that you get certain bonuses or not. And in that sense we need something that is mobilely capable to provide this identity to, for example, the taxi driver. And the third one is in the domain of iVoting, so voting over the internet. And there we would like to see cases where we have a vote, for example, in the university environment, where you have different students of different nationalities, and they all can participate in that vote with their nationality to authenticate and to be authorized to take part in the voting. For what we want to do and how to evaluate, we decided to split this into 2 parts. The first part is basically taking care of how the project as such worked, how the design phase worked, if there were any hiccups in that regard, and also how the partners work together, because we have a lot of different partners with different backgrounds, legal, technical, science, non-science, and so on. And in the second round we are basically testing the pilots in their real-world environments and see how it works function-wise, but also in terms of how the user acceptance, for example, is of the functionalities that the pilots are going to provide. So it's considered from a very practical level and a very high level. The very high level is that we have certain regulations concerning GDPR, so data protection, but also in terms of the single digital gateway regulation that gives certain aspects in terms of use of eID in this international context, and you need to take this into consideration when you develop it. On the other side, when you actually run the pilots, right, you have to see that all the legal concerns in terms of, the consent forms for the participations and other things, you do not lose information of the participants, for example, in the domain of internet voting, right? So this is the 2 ways where we tackle legal challenges in the project. In overall, we have 2 situations where they can occur. The one is that you have issues within the project. This is, I think, not specific to our project, that in any project that, you have intellectual property, and this intellectual property, while you develop solutions, software is respected by all partners, right? But this is a general project-related issue. On the other hand is in the ethical challenges in the pilots. GDPR we mentioned several times, but on the other side also that, for example, you want solutions to be developed and adopted throughout the European Union, right? Meaning that you want to be open through to all stakeholder groups. So if you have marginalized personal groups or persons, for example, with disabilities or they need special care in terms of access to the services, you have to be careful that you can address these things properly, or if it goes beyond the scope, you make the system as open as possible, so later on additional functionalities can provide this accessibility. And if you don't do this, then you have a perfect technical solution, but actually certain persons will not be able to use it, and I think that's the biggest ethical concern that we're dealing with. Okay, that's a tricky one, but again, twofold. The one is we have a lot of users internal testing, so a lot of project partners are going to be involved in testing, for example, the signature one, or also in the smart mobility one, because you're not going to implement it in a real-world scenario that all the taxis, for example, in a certain region are testing your ones. This is not in the technology readiness level that we're addressing in the project. That being said, in terms of the iVoting one, we have a concrete use case. We are going to do it with students at the university in Tartu in Estonia. So they are going to interact there, and there it's going to be very important to see how they perceive the process of using the system, how it is about the interaction with the user interface on the smartphone devices, and in general, do we capture the process or the voting for them in a way that they actually find it useful, and finally would, if there is the option to do it in an online way, also pick that option and really make use of the services that we're going to provide.